Hello, everybody, and how are you doing on this amazing Saturday morning? We are having another episode of Mental Health Live Chat, and we are on episode 11. 11 episodes. It's awesome. Very, very awesome. Oh, let me make sure I muted the YouTube.
I just did that same thing.
Almost had a rookie move. I was watching a video this morning and I couldn't remember if I muted it or not after it was done, but I did, thank goodness. So this morning we have Heather on with, again, I love having her on. She's so awesome. And I'm sure we're going to hear from Dwayne soon because he's sassy. He's very sassy, but he's awesome too. Absolutely love you guys. You guys are amazing. And I appreciate you talking with me last night. And
of course, yes, a good time.
Yeah, it was very much a good time. And you guys understand what we go through. So that's awesome even more. So you guys can hear and see us all right as at this time. Sometimes my camera cuts in and out. I think it's just because of the way I move, but I just want to make sure that everybody can see us pretty good. Other than that, hello, Alma. Welcome. And now we have 3 people in. And
all right.
Exciting. I was going to say something and my brain went blank. I do have a migraine today. So please bear with me. I'm going to try to push through it as long as I can. But today's topic, we are going to talk about how do you react when somebody who doesn't suffer with mental health tells you to get over it. Right?
I was refreshing my YouTube because it was frozen up.
Oh.
Yes. Okay. That is what we were discussing. Yes, is what to do with the judgment, the bizarre comments, the lack of understanding, the lack of compassion. It goes on and on, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. And when go ahead.
The damned if you do, the damned if you don't.
Yep, exactly.
If you don't take medication, why are you so crazy? Do you take medication? People, I would never do that. You know what my favorite one is? People who do like I drink coffee and I'll have an alcoholic beverage once in a while. Smoking's never been my thing. We won't talk about anything else. But when people are like, I don't believe in mood altering medications, and it's like, right. Are you serious?
Well, see, and that's the thing, sorry, I had to shut the bedroom door.
I'm in my bedroom too. I gotta stop moving around so my camera's not bobbing up and down.
Hello, Dwayne. Hello, April. Hello, Aunt Kelly. Thank you all for joining. Yeah, I'm not much of a drinker, and I don't like the way it makes me feel. Hello, Crystal. Welcome. And medications too. I don't like putting stuff in my body.
Oh, nobody does. But if you do it because you wouldn't be here otherwise, then you do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It took me a long time I'd say about 2 years to actually get back on medication, maybe a year, 2 years, something like that. And it was a struggle.
I totally know.
Failed, and then when you have your children telling you, Mom, you need to get on medication, or you need to do something, and you're just like trying really hard not to go that route. And then when you finally admit that you have to go that route, sometimes it sucks.
That it's a very bitter pill, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I remember even when the doctor said that, well, I should have never been put on antidepressants to begin with, but I was on antidepressants for, over 20 years.
Wow.
And then the doctor's like, you really need to be on antipsychotics. And even that was hard, knowing that, because I really hate the term antipsychotic, because, it's just like, well, I'm not psychotic,
Right.
but not at the moment. But no, there is still part of my brain that still doesn't think that I should need medication. It still doesn't want to accept my diagnosis of being bipolar. Just this little portion that just wants to remain in denial, or that maybe one day I won't need medication, and
Yeah, I tell myself that too. I'm like, oh, I can take medication till I feel better, and this is what I've done before in the past too, where I've taken myself off medication because, well, I felt better, I felt fine, and I don't need it, and this and that, and then I'm like, I go so long, and then I'm like, even I don't want to be around me.
yeah,
But I didn't want to take that step to be remedicated, because going through the whole getting used to the medication is a pain. It is definitely a pain. Hello, Marie. Welcome, and welcome back, Oma.
And it can be a process that, while you are adjusting, like I had my medication bumped up in December, and I was useless for the whole month of December, because they had upped it by 50 milligrams and then another 50. And I don't know, it's doing okay. It's not great, but I don't know when this, because I'm at 200 milligrams of Seroquel, and when that's no longer working for me, I don't know, is that they're going to up it again or just move on to something else. And of course, that's very, very difficult.
Yeah, I was on 400 milligrams a night.
Wow, yeah, so I'm at 200, and then I'm on Wellbutrin, like 300 of that, I think. Ah, man, I didn't take my medicine yet. I will. But so
I was on right there. But I was on 400 milligrams of it, and I didn't know I was pregnant. And I found out, so the first 6 months of my pregnancy with my son, because I didn't find out until I was 6 months pregnant, because I didn't have any symptoms. I had no idea. They told me I couldn't have kids. And then all of a sudden I got pregnant with my son. They put me on a medication in the hospital, because I self-admitted myself into the hospital. I had a nervous breakdown because they told me I'd never be able to have children, and that was really hard for me to accept. So I ended up putting myself in a hospital because I was afraid that I was going to hurt myself. And I was a zombie for like a week beforehand, and I guess I was doing these crazy things, and I was like, yeah, I think I need to be hospitalized. So I was in the hospital for a little bit, and they put me on this medication. And now I can't think of what the medication was, but because I couldn't have kids, they gave me this medication because it's not good for women. They don't give it to women who can have kids, because it messes up the child, the baby. And I was only on that for a short time. Well, I ended up becoming pregnant while on that medication. Yeah, so I had the opposite effect of what it was supposed, what it's supposed to do. And it made me fertile myrtle, and I ended up pregnant, and which I was thankful for, but I didn't know for 6 months. And so I was on 400 milligrams of Seroquel a night for the first 6 months of my pregnancy with my son. And so that was scary when I found out. And then they went off of it. And because if I would have stopped it cold turkey, they said that he would have went through withdrawals, because I was taking it so long during my pregnancy, so they had to wean me off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty scary to find out that, I was 6 months pregnant. I mean, it's crazy for anybody to find out that they're pregnant at 6 months and then to be on medication for other, for your mental health. So sometimes I feel guilty that with the things that we go through with him and the issues that he has, I feel like because of the medication that I was on was what caused it. But at the same time, I don't know for sure because I don't know the full extent of what these medications
because no one knows really.
Right. And so it's scary, but I will never take Seroquel again just because I don't want to go that route again.
It worked really well for me in the beginning, and then it's slowly been tapering off. Eventually I'll get to where I can't take it anymore. But I was about 6 minutes along with each of my pregnancies when I found out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
At about 10 minutes along, I started barfing and never stopped.
Oh, no. Yeah, see, with Joseph, I found out I only had a couple months to prepare, where most women have, the whole pregnancy, usually find out you're a month, 2 months along, and then, you have all that time to prepare. Mentally, I didn't have that time to prepare, and it was a huge shock. And then I told my doctor to stop lying to me. And it wasn't funny that they put a tape in to make it look like I was pregnant. And like I had a total meltdown when I found out. Not that I wasn't happy to be pregnant, but I really thought that they were lying to me. And so
because of the mental state you were in.
Mm-hmm, yep. And with being told I was not going to ever be a mom, and then like I'm finding out I'm 6 months pregnant. I got pregnant and had no idea. And yeah, and then I gained a lot of weight. My body was like, oh, we're pregnant. Poof. I'm like, holy crap. But but then with Jaslyn, my sister Tabitha was up visiting for a summer, and she had a sneaking suspicion that I was pregnant. And so the day that she left, we took her to the airport to go fly back home. She had run to the store and then came back, and she put a pregnancy test in the bathroom, and I had no idea. And she's on the plane, or just before she got on the plane, she was like, you need to go to the bathroom. I'm like, no, I don't. She's like, yes, you do. I'm like, no, I don't. She's like, yes, you do. So I'm like, okay, I do. So I went into the bathroom, and she's like, see the bag that's on the back of the toilet? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, you need to take that. I'm like, take what? So I opened it up. I'm like, really? I'm like, there's no way. I was on birth control. As soon as I had my son, I went on birth control, and I was on the birth control patch.
Mm.
And yeah, I was like, nope, I can't get pregnant. I'm on the birth control patch. Dummy me.
And there you were anyway. Did you see what?
Yeah, she knew like immediately.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3 weeks along when she did that. And
Dwayne knew with our third.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you see what Shida wrote?
Oh, hey, Mama. My mother didn't know she was pregnant until she went into labor. Oh, see, I thought I was having appendicitis. That's why I went to the hospital, because I thought it was appendicitis with Joey, because I had a lot of pain, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. And the medication too that I was on at that time. Now, this is the weird part. The medication that I was on at that time, I had to take 2 pregnancy tests a month, because it was part of the stipulation of taking this medication. They were all coming back negative.
That's weird.
I was pregnant, but it was coming back. They were coming back negative. And so, yeah, the ER doctor came in and actually came into the waiting room area where they were taking my blood pressure and all that, checking me in. And he was like, well, when was your last period? And I told him, and I'm like, well, that's normal for me. And he's like, okay. And he started pushing on my stomach, and I was like, ow, that hurts. And he's like, get her upstairs now. So here I'm thinking I'm going up for surgery. My appendix is going to burst. No, I went to the OBGYN floor. I had no idea what that floor was. Never been there before. And yeah, the kid's dad was like, why does she, because they hooked me up to all these weird monitors, and he was like, well, why is her heartbeat registering twice? The nurse looks over and goes, that's usually what happens when you're pregnant. And I was like, no, I'm not. Don't even play this. And I took a pregnancy test there, and it came back negative, but I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And when they put the wand on my stomach, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about finding out that I was pregnant with a boy. He mooned that to a technician and then flipped him off.
Hey, very good. He was already full of attitude.
Oh, yeah. You know, and so, yeah, medication, you know, it's a crazy thing. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
I wish that they could not have to do the whole trial and error thing with medication.
I know that they do have some blood tests that they can do with some. I don't know much about it. I've never had it done, but they're like supposedly they can.
Yeah, I've had the test done. It's a swab test.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
a test, and what they do is they take it and they compare it, like put it in this like test thing where they go through a line of different medications that'll work for your body chemistry. And I can't think of the technical term for this test, but I've had it done. And there's still a list that they have to go through because they have stuff that your body will work. It'll work with your body. And then they're not sure the yellow, which that's the green. The yellow is it could work or it couldn't work. And then you have the red where it's like, stay away from that medication. That's not good for you. And so there is quite a list with the green for me. And so far, none of them seem to work. So I don't know how accurate it is. I mean, I'm on the Lexapro now, and
I've taken that one.
I don't like it. I did really good at the beginning of it.
Mm-hmm.
In the last probably 3 or 4 weeks, it's causing suicidal nightmares.
Yeah, you mentioned that. That is so freaky and awful.
Yep, and not that I'm a suicidal person or anything, but when I think they call it suicidal ideation or something like that, and the nightmares are just crazy because it's like quantum leap, jumping from one suicidal situation to another, and I don't like it.
That's really bizarre.
Yep, and now with all this coronavirus going on, it's hard to get into the doctors, and so hopefully I'll get a call back. I had one scheduled. I had to reschedule it, and then they called again. They had to reschedule because she wasn't going to be in, and now I'm waiting. It's the waiting game.
That's insane. But right now, so many crazy things are going on. It's not surprising.
Yeah, and I mean, I have I didn't bring it in again. I was going to be silly and grab my face masks that I have. I got
my nose.
I saw it this morning. We were talking. Tommy and I were talking yesterday.
Everyone's like, "Don't touch your face. My nose itches."
See, I have face masks, but these are for work related stuff. and then I have my gloves. So I'm good.
And I told Dwayne that when we get coronavirus, it's going to be because he brings it into the house because Jeremy and I don't go out a whole lot.
Yeah.
Just putting the pressure on him. So what are some weird things that have been said, or some negative comments, or what kind of behaviors, habits, perhaps, have you taken on in order to avoid people's judgment?
Well, at the beginning of, let's see, I've been told that a lot of times I've been told, hello, Willow, that it was all in my head. And I'm like, duh, you know. And so, I mean, it's just snooty looks and snooty comments, like under your breath type stuff, drives me nuts. And it's like right off the top of my head, there's been some pretty nasty ones that I don't care to repeat live because it's not appropriate, even for the show being very relaxed and open and stuff.
That's really bad.
Yeah, it's my ex-husband was really bad with it too, and he triggered a lot of it. And so it's to the point where where I try not to let it get to me, but his voice still, to this day, his voice creeps in, and I can hear all the negative crap that he's ever said to me, and it sucks. So when somebody tries to tell me, oh, it's been years, you should be over it, and it's like, it's not how it works. Because some days are better than others, and for the most part, a lot of times I'm able to like block it out, but not always. And then it kind of just sends me in a down spiral. What about you?
Which angle are we going with? Talking about negativity from the past. That would be my father. But I set a goal. He's been dead for 5 years, and I set a goal this year that I was going to let go the last of my anger towards him. So I don't know what that looks like necessarily, but I'm practicing, if that makes sense. I'm searching for different directions within myself, my head, my heart. How do I let go of the end of this? Because really, he'd been dead for about 3 months, and this thought just came over me, and I ran to find my phone to call my sisters, and my phone's right here. That's why I was pointing to it. And I'm like, you know what? He can never say another mean thing to us in this lifetime. And they're like, you're right. And like I said, it was just something that I realized. Now, as far as mental health goes, I remember telling him that I'd been diagnosed with bipolar. I don't recall any kind of a reaction. I have no idea if he ever believed that or not. But anyway, that as far as letting go of past negativity, there's that. But as far as with the bipolar, my experience was, I was at my lowest low, as most people are when they finally get diagnosed. And so then I told everybody, hey, I'm bipolar. And my mom told me that I shouldn't want that. She was like, oh, you don't want that. I'm like, you're right, Mom, I don't. But which was a bizarre reaction. But besides my mom, everybody else in my life just kind of paused and said, huh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And But my daughter has talked about with when she tells people that she's bipolar, how she feels like they just kind of are slowly stepping back.
Yeah.
Um, if people have done that to me, perhaps I didn't care enough to notice. I tend to keep people, the whole what they're talking about, what are they calling that right now with the virus out? The personal space thing. They have a term for it right now. What is it?
Oh,
The, the personal segregation. What is that?
yeah, I think that's what it is. I call it my bubble. Please don't
Yeah,
step in my
see, and I do that anyway, keep everybody at the closest at arm's reach.
bubble. Right.
But
Okay.
there it is. Yes, thank you, Marie. Social distancing. I'm like, heck, I was doing that since before it was cool, man.
I know,
And
right?
um, and that wasn't just a conscious decision one day. That it was something that just evolved over decades. I would say that I just don't let people into my life. So I'm not saying that's a healthy thing or that's how people should do it. That's just kind of been my result because I have a hard enough time with my own personal judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is hard to find people that, for me, it's not about other people's judgment. My great thing is it's my blessing and curse. People love to share and share and share and share with me and drain all my energy. And it's not that I don't care. Well, eventually I get to the point where I'm like, can I just stop caring now? Because there's nothing I can do about this. I do care about, was it Dwayne put a meme on my Facebook about, that loving people, I just don't want to be around them. So, which I think describes me. But
Yeah, I saw that one. Let me see if I can find it.
yeah, that was very funny, very accurate. And let's see there. Yeah, April and I have done a lot of chit chat, and she has. As I'm getting older, I distance myself more too. When my kids were young, I tried really hard to get involved with things like with their school and the community. I even took them to church, and then I decided the payoff wasn't there. Um, but yeah, right there, Dwayne said it is about being an empath, that people just they can feel that in me, and so then they start sharing their story and with me. And like I said, there's only so much you can take of anyone wanting to suck your emotional energy out because of their problems.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize how draining it is with mental health.
Yeah.
I've been told, oh, you're lazy because I get tired. I get tired really easy, especially if something um, kind of triggers my anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I feel more tired when my anxiety kicks in than when, my depression and all that other stuff kicks in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I hear you. I get that. Yeah. Because the depression is easier to fake too.
yes, very much so, very much so. And that's the thing, you I shouldn't say you, me personally with my anxiety, it's intertwined with my PTSD.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so I constantly look over my shoulder. When I'm out in public, it's really, really draining for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to be I was a cheerleader in high school, and I loved people. I knew everybody by first and last name in my school. And when we had my graduating class alone was like 400 people. And so, and I knew each and every one of them by name. And I wasn't in one specific clique. Yeah, I was bullied and I was beat up by one clique of girls that didn't like the fact that everybody knew who I was and I talked to everybody and I wished them a good day and was very encouraging. That part of me hasn't changed. the encouraging part where I help other people that way. But everybody knew who I was, and I could blend in with any crowd except for that one specific crowd. They didn't like me, and I never understood what I ever did to them for them not to like me. I can only speculate it was because I was one of the few people in the school that was able to jump from group to group and not have an issue with any group.
Gotcha. We've got two questions.
Oh.
Are you? One is, did you know your diagnosis before? Let's see. Yeah, did you know you were bipolar before a doctor diagnosed you? You know, I've known like everything except for that. I knew I had fibro. I had to find a doctor to tell me, or to agree, you know, with me. But I already knew. I knew about the depression, the anxiety, but the bipolar I did not know. And it was a nurse practitioner that actually caught it because she was looking at my medication history. And she's like, you have taken everything, you know, depressant wise. And she's like, you're bipolar. And she sent me to a psychiatrist to be officially diagnosed. But I was very grateful to her for catching that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was initially at the very beginning of everything when the first time I took hit rock bottom.
Mhm.
And I was physically, emotionally, sexually abused by my first husband. And so I live with those traumas every single day. But it took me a long time to get to where I am now, where I am not a victim anymore. I'm a survivor. I can beat this, but it has, because of the things that I went through during that time, it's caused my PTSD, my anxiety, my depression, and stuff like that. And so for me personally, I couldn't really tell you what the very first trigger, because I know I saw that, they're talking about avoiding triggers. I don't know what my triggers are.
That's hard.
So random, and every day it seems like it's different.
And yeah, that absolutely. Then we've got Dapper Tiger.
Hello,
What
Tiger, welcome.
are your thoughts on psychedelics for anxiety, depression, PTSD treatment? I would absolutely. I know that's going on. My sister knows someone who knows someone who's doing it. I am completely game for trying that. I've heard that it's like this. It's a treatment rather than a daily, medicating. And I would so be all over that.
Is that like therapy or something?
So they give you microdose of LSD. Like once the gal that my sister told me about, once a week she takes a microdose of LSD, and it evens out her bipolar. And that would be so cool to get off of at least some of the medication. I would love to get off the antipsychotic and be able to lose some weight.
Yeah.
So no, I'd totally be all over that. But
now there's Dapper saying, well, there is a lot of promising research coming out of Johns Hopkins University showing long-term benefits of treating depression and PTSD.
No, I think because from what I understand, when LSD first came out, it was just deemed as, a psychedelic and then hidden away, and you can only get it through illegal
means.
Thank you. But then now, all these years later, they decided to experiment with it, I guess. And I've heard they've used it with schizophrenia, and now they're trying other things. I've only heard a little bit, only read a little bit about it. It's not something I've put time into researching yet, but I like the idea of it. Anything that that would help, and any medication I could get off of, I would love. So,
and if there is an alternative, healthier, natural way to deal with my mental health, I will do it. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
let's try this. I'll be a guinea pig for it.
Yeah.
Because it does, it gets, you get tired of people saying that it's no big deal or just get over it, or what's some of the other famous ones.
Oh, I always have this song from when I was a kid, and one of the lines in it is turn that frown upside down and smile something. It's smile something away. I don't know. I'd have to look up the lyrics to it. Something we sang in church for the kids. But so there's like that goes on and in the back of my head sometimes, and then I'm like, oh, screw you. But faking it only gets you so far.
Dwayne said, just quit being sad. I think that's
Yes.
another one that I've heard, and I can't think of what it is.
But one thing though, and it's really, really, really hard, is not punishing others for how you feel.
That's hard.
Yeah. And I usually kind of go into a shutdown mode. And see, that's the thing that like Dwayne, he's like, you don't seem very happy. And it's hard for me to break it down a lot of the time, at least at first, because it all comes through in such a whirlwind, and then it just turns to rage. And then I just have this internal rage that, like I said, we were talking about last night, that if I was to tell you the thoughts that were going through my head, it makes no sense. I know logically it makes no sense, but it's still there.
Right. See, Crystal said too, people just telling you are fine, there's nothing wrong with you, or you're lazy, and your communication skills suck.
Wow.
It's like, wait a minute, because I am not gonna lie, I agree to an extent when it comes to my communications skills aren't the best. Because I can be talking to somebody and then all of a sudden, and I've done it live, and like my brain literally just stops, and I don't remember what I was talking about. I go quiet, and people are like, and I'm like, what was I talking about? So it makes you seem like you're not like really paying attention to what you're talking about. And Dwayne. No, wait a minute. I get told that one. Your communication skills suck. LOL.
Yeah.
Abby. Welcome.
I would like to learn about Dapper Tiger's story. It sounds like there's a lot there. And but no, I do feel very, very fortunate to be alive right now, because just think about if we were going through this 100 years ago, how it would be handled. And because my mom's father, he was diagnosed with being schizophrenic, and he wasn't. I think he was bipolar 1 with schizoaffective disorder. He also had PTSD and was an alcoholic. I never met him, but from the stories I've heard, that there's no way you can grow up in an orphanage and not have PTSD. And I think basically he drank himself to death, sadly. But his mother got put into an institution, and my guess is that she probably was bipolar and had postpartum depression. And so they put her in an institution and told her that her baby died, which was him. and he found her when he was an adult, and she didn't believe him that he was alive.
See, and that's the thing too, people mess with your mind. And there are people out there that do it just to be funny. And then there's other people that do it just to be mean. And it's like, why mess with somebody's head like that? They already have enough going on in there. So why would you contribute to the problem? Why can't you help be the solution? And I do know a few people like that. We actually have somebody in the back room. Hello, Sam. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, ladies. How are you?
Hello. We are good.
I was first time checking you out, and I was just getting to work, and I kind of stopped everything I was doing, hearing you guys talking about this topic. I don't think people talk about it enough. So I thought I'd add my 2 cents to it. I appreciate you guys adding me on.
Yeah, not a problem. I actually, that's what my channel is about, is mental health. I do have some other stuff going on the channel too, but every Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time, I do a live open panel mental health chat.
Yeah, I'm glad I found you. Yeah. Marie shouted you out in like a live stream a couple of days back, so I've had you guys like on my list to check out.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Marie. And that's the thing. I want my channel to be, when I do these lives and stuff like that, I want people to understand that this is a safe place, that we are here to help each other, to, because we don't get that help 9 times out of 10 outside of our homes and our families. And even then, sometimes even our families are not very much help. And I'm not talking about you, honey. I know you're watching. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying in general. So a lot of people don't have other people to depend on. And I want a place where no matter what, you're not going to be judged. You're accepted. And if you need help with something, we're here, So that's what my channel is about.
Yeah. So I wanted to share a little bit about psychedelics.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. So basically, a couple years back, I'm a retired doctor. I was diagnosed with bipolar, and I was at the height of my mania like 2 years ago, and I had no idea. And then I kind of had this like existential crisis and sorry, my cat's wanting cuddles. So, and then I fell into this really dark spiral. I got suicidal. I was married at the time, and things started falling apart at work mentally. And I was already seeking mental health, like from a psychiatrist, and I got loaded up on medications. I have never taken medication in my life. I always meditated when I was younger. I exercised, and I did those things to take care of my mind. I totally changed once I started going on that stuff. And the problem was, once I was on, I couldn't get off. And my problem treating, now I'm high as a doctor. I wasn't me, and I wasn't able to make good clinical decisions for my patients. So I had to leave, just knowing that, like, that gut check, it was not right. Now I'm not working, and I'm suicidal, and I'm hooked on benzos. And everything that I'm seeing, and just with my medical background, I'm like, this is, I'm stuck. And then just, by happen circumstance, I come across a journal from Johns Hopkins University showing research for psychedelic mushrooms on a large dose, helping people with treatment-resistant depression, which was what I was experiencing. I was taking all these meds. I was gaining weight. My mood was just fluctuating, and and the ones that I would take to control my mood made me feel like a zombie. Now, my gut check was, that's not right. I don't like feeling like this, but everybody I saw is, that's good. And I'm like, I'm too zombied up to try and kill myself, and I started slowly feeling like that, that warning label at the end of a commercial. So, anyways, and then I started seeing other things about like ayahuasca helping people with heroin addictions. who were hooked, went through, all the programs. They just end up back on it. And then they go on this retreat one time, done. And it was absolutely crazy. So I sought out some magic mushrooms. I took a large dose, and what I basically experienced was like 30 years of psychotherapy in like 8 hours. I cried a lot, but when I was done, when I came out of it, it wasn't scary at all. I found that I was no longer like feeling that weight that's on my chest, that persistent negative feeling. And I would get suicidal thoughts, like just, like, oh, what if I jerk the wheel a little bit this way? Of course, like my rational mind would bring me back, but always that thought would come back. So that doesn't happen anymore. Like,
Wow.
Like just not even, it's like, somebody I felt like when I was suicidal, it felt like somebody who was hooked on feeding for cigarettes. Like I was fiending for that suicidal thought. I don't have that. My anxiety with planes went away. I used to have to take a Xanax to get on a plane, gone. Like I would get nervous just getting onto a roller coaster in line, fearless. It's crazy.
That is really wild.
And, and I met my fiance the same way. We met through, our just psychedelics, and she was the same way. And then when you when you get into that community, you realize how many of the same stories are coming out. So Johns Hopkins right now is working with the government to declassify psychedelic.
I've heard that they will. Yep. That was being worked on,
because now they're finding a therapeutic use for it.
Yeah.
And MAPS, MAPS, which is a multidisciplinary like psychedelic association. They're trying to train as many clinicians as they can to help people, because I've been messing with mushrooms since I was 16, so I'm probably a little too early for most. And I would caution, if you're not ready, this is not something you should jump into. And I respect it as a medicine. So I think that a clinician, an experienced guide, should be there for somebody, just in case things go south,
Sure.
Especially, I think it's easy for somebody to start thinking they had a bad trip, and all they need is for you to like hold their hand and just say, hey, it's going to be okay, and bring you back.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a couple of psilocybin retreats in Jamaica, in Treasure Cove. I think he goes by Micro Meditation, and this was a man from Kentucky who got caught growing magic mushrooms, went to prison for it, but he's so passionate about it, he decided to go down to Jamaica and open up this retreat. And there are a couple others like that down there. It's not illegal. You go down, you work with these clinicians, you're away from everything. So it allows you to disconnect from technology, from the world, the things that are feeding the anxiety. So you cut the thing that's feeding off the beast. Now you're in warm Jamaica, beautiful blue water. It's so hard not to meditate and appreciate your surroundings down there. And then you have this therapeutic clinical moment with a group of other people, so you don't feel alone. So there's a lot of stuff out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna ask my the gal I go to. I have an appointment probably like in 6 weeks about what she's learned about the whole psychedelic angle. I've been taking various medications for 27 years.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very long time.
Yeah, I can't imagine, because I only took it for a year and a half. And
it's completely disruptive. It's impossible to stay consistent. It's hard to stay consistent to begin with, but then you throw in the ups and downs and the medication changes. And I haven't had a job for years.
Heather, I hope you find an opportunity to, because I
Yes.
remember the moment that I was like, shit, I'm me again. Like, you know, like,
What does that look like?
it's, you know, it's, I mean, like, you guys can see, I don't know. I feel happier as a person, you know.
That's amazing.
And now it's like, you know, I'm trying to, how many folks are like yourself who don't know, and maybe your practitioners don't know, because, you know, sometimes you get stuck in the rut treating, and it's hard to stay up on relevant information.
Sure.
And there's so much stigma around psychedelics. You know, nobody's going to think they're going to start flying and jumping off a ledge. Like, the worst thing that ever happened to me with psychedelics is I got lost in the sleeve of my sweatshirt for a half an hour laughing. I couldn't get out of the sweatshirt. That's the most ridiculous thing that has ever happened, but that's it.
Wow.
That is very funny.
You know, and I've noticed too, I've been on medication for a long time, and I've noticed that I am a totally different person than I was when I was in school and in high school and stuff. Like, I was very easygoing. I was always smiling and happy, and I was willing to try new things, and not so much anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and with the whole PTSD, anxiety, depression, all of that stuff, it makes me feel like I'm uptight and not willing to do a whole lot, because I'm like scared of everything, it seems. You know, it took a lot for me to, because I've been on YouTube for a year and a half, almost 2 years. First, I was on my regular page. I wasn't on the Shamrock Pixie. I was just on my regular one. And I started interacting with people. And then I made the Shamrock Pixie one. And I was like the face of my fiance's business. And so, you know, that took a toll on me, because I'm not a reseller, but he is. And so he would coach me in what I needed to say and this and that. And then it just got to a point where I didn't feel right doing it anymore. It drained me. It drained me to the point of where I just wanted to disappear. And I'm like, you need to do this. And he's like, okay. He's like, all right. He could tell that it was, because I felt dumb. People would start talking percentages, and I graduated on the honor roll, but you can't tell now. And, you know, they would talk about percentages, and I'm just like, what? You know, like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Or they use abbreviations, and I had no clue. So I just sit there and twiddle my thumbs and be like, yeah, you know, act like I knew what they were talking about. And it got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it anymore. And so I had to back away from it. Do I miss the reseller community? I sure the heck do, you know, because they were my first real people on YouTube that accepted me, and didn't matter who I was behind the scenes. They accepted me and welcomed me with open arms, and I was so not used to that on top of it all. So that just kind of played havoc all in itself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I almost died last May. My spleen exploded. And I mean, I was still a really small channel, and I couldn't believe how many people knew who I was, who were there supporting me emotionally. You know, it was like everybody came out of the woodwork and was like, hey, are you okay? Thank God you didn't die on us. And I'm just like, at that moment, I knew that obviously I had touched people's lives and didn't realize it before then. And then a couple months later, because of my incision and because of everything that just, because it happened so quick, and then them telling me that I had a better chance of winning the lottery than surviving this. I had a 1% chance of walking out of the hospital. I had AVM, which I'm sure you know what that is. It was in my spleen.
Yeah.
It was in my spleen.
I had one in my liver, so yeah.
Oh, see, okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you know, right up there. That's not a lot of people know what AVM is, and I do have a couple videos after my spleen exploded, talking about it and stuff like that. But it's crazy how all of that kind of just like crushed me. And then, so I went online because YouTube, my fiance, Tommy, the Bargain Effect, he researches everything. And he's like, you're starting to go downhill really bad. He's like, why don't we look on YouTube and see if there's anybody out there that maybe you can relate to about all this that you're going through. And we did. We looked under PTSD. We looked under anxiety. We looked under mental health. We looked under everything that we possibly could think of that I've been diagnosed with and what would relate to mental health. And all we found were doctors and counselors. There was nobody really talking about what they go through on a daily basis or what they've been through. And yeah, there were some people who had a video here. That was it. There was like one, maybe two videos max, but they weren't bringing any light to it. There was no safety, no comfort, no acceptance in those. And so Tommy's like, well, maybe that's what you should do with your channel. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. So it took me a bit to want to talk about what I'm going through. And then I finally did. And holy cow, the response. People had no idea that I was struggling with mental health. And I felt better that I was able to get it out there. But then after I got it out there, I was like, oh, people are really going to hate me now, you know? I haven't found that. People are like, I can relate to this. And I'm just glad I'm doing it, you know, because people need to hear the real stuff, not just what, and no offense to or anything, but what doctors are saying and what counselors are saying, you know. And I actually am thanking you for being here, because with you being a retired doctor and you're going through this, I don't meet many doctors that have experienced the things that I've gone through. So it's really awesome to hear that doctors are human as well, you know?
Well, it's kind of what Heather talked about. There are empaths who treat too. And I listen to horrible stories. And sometimes, like, when you lose a patient, like, I'm sure people have had the feeling. I told my wife this last night, where you lose somebody to suicide, and you think that thought of, man, I wish I could have done more. I wish I could have reached out more. Right? Imagine now that somebody's dying in front of your face and you're doing CPR, and you couldn't save them. That's the kind of stuff you take home sometimes. I remember the first time I lost a patient, I sleepwalked for 7 days. Didn't know it. And I was living by myself, like, and I didn't know how to handle it. And especially being, I'm first generation Chinese American. The Chinese community doesn't even talk about it. And now, and forget about race. Now, gender, men, suck it up, man up. Men don't cry. Like in Chinese, we say, like, men bleed blood, not tears. And I kind of bought into that. I guess, we call it toxic masculinity, but there are more and more. I think, what is it, Goop, the Gwyneth Paltrow thing on Netflix, had a doctor, a clinical or gynecological oncologist, who talks about how she has to cope with some of the losses. She saves a lot of patients, but she loses them too. So even though I'm not treating, I still have my passion to help people. And with, all the friends that I have, I've seen who are going through this, who could benefit from the information, who aren't really aware of what their options are, and you got to think too, as a doctor, like, what are we trained to do? We're not told that we can use psychedelics to treat something.
Right.
We're not told that cannabis is a potential medicine. Now it is. Now we're having an open conversation. You could lose your license. I could lose my license if I was practicing talking about this kind of stuff so openly.
Right.
And that's fear. So not everybody's bought off and paid off and has some sort of agenda. It's just the perspective that we're trained in and what we know. And sometimes it's we get so stubborn as a profession in what we know that it's hard for us to embrace that. Maybe just because you didn't have a medical degree doesn't mean you're not an expert of your own body. I tell every doctor I've ever trained under, I tell you, like, you will know what's wrong with a patient within 15 minutes of deep listening. Everything else you do after that is just confirming the hypothesis that you made. If you're good, you will know what's going on. And I challenge everybody like that. But, how many people who are in the chat room, how many of you ladies have spent more than 5 minutes with your doctor?
Yeah.
So
my doctor, okay, so the doctor I have now, I actually followed her from the clinic that we have here in town to the clinic that she moved to. Our family followed, because I went through a lot of doctors at the clinic that we have here in town. With every good doctor that I would have, within a couple months, they were gone. And so I would have to find another doctor in that clinic. And I got sick of it. And I was able to make a connection with her because she understood and she listened, and she was just phenomenal. I absolutely love my doctor, my family doctor.
That's beautiful.
And
See, those are rare gems, yeah.
And I've had a couple of them at this clinic that we were at before, and they just rip them away. And it was like having a very bad, cut. And, you have a bandage over it and it's starting to scar, and you go to rip out the Band-Aid and it reopens it. So I got tired of having to constantly explain myself over and over every few months. And finally I was like, she told us that she was leaving. I'm like, I need to know where you're going. I said, I don't care about this clinic. I need to know where you're going, because for my mental health sake and for everything that I am, I need to follow you. And she's like, I can't tell you that information. I was like, I will get that information one way or another. I am not giving up on this conversation. And she finally was like, okay. She's like, this is where I'm going. And this is when I'll be able to start taking patients. And as soon as that time came, I was like, boom, on the phone, getting in there, because I needed her. She's like one of my support systems in my life. And I can sit there. I can either have a 15-minute appointment, a 30-minute appointment, or an hour appointment. And I get to take the hour appointment anytime I want. She has already okayed it. And so if I need that hour, all I got to do is call and say I need an hour appointment with my doctor. And they already have it in my notes that I get that. So so when you say that, I'm very blessed to have that. Very blessed to have that. And I know a lot of people don't. And I'm not trying to like brag that I have it, because I know other people don't have it. But I feel very lucky in that aspect that I have that if I need it. And so I probably should take more advantage of it, but I don't want to be a pain in the butt to her either.
Well, I think, look, we gotta, if healthcare is going to look at us as customers, we got to look at them as, service providers. And, if you go to a restaurant and it's crappy, like, you're going to go to a different restaurant, not go back. Yeah. And I think that, like, you sharing that isn't necessarily bragging. I think however many people put up with crappy healthcare, they don't know that maybe, they just need to shop around. And, that's a double-edged sword, but looking for somebody who is, a little bit more knowledgeable, who takes a little bit more time and genuinely cares, and is just not there to collect a paycheck.
I've had
So
those doctors. I've had psychiatrists and counselors like that. But my family doctor is more caring and compassionate than any of the other doctors I've had.
yeah,
And I had one like before, so 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, I ended up with a psychiatrist that was male. It's really hard for me to open up to a male and doctors type stuff, you know, but he was patient and he was kind. And I had him for 3.5, 4 years. And then again, our county, because we worked with the county, our county cut his contract. And
shame.
I was like, really? And so the whole thought of having to try to find another one is so scary for me because I don't trust very easy. And it sucks that our county has the ability to take away the important people, the good important people. And I know I'm not the only one that was affected by his contract not being re-signed. I know I'm not, because it was hard to get an appointment with him because he was so packed. And he mostly focused on children's mental health. But some of us adults were able to keep him when we switched over to that, and I happened to be one of them. And they just took him. Stupid county. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a bummer, you know. So, and I guess naturally, I feel like I'm pretty good with connecting with folks and communicating. And I remember there was a point where I'm sitting in the office with my psychiatrist, and you know, I'm sure all you guys have been very good at faking your depression and putting on that mask, you know. And I was very good at lying to him. I was very good at telling him things. And then by the end of it, like, he's telling me his problems, how he's dealing with like some depression and stuff, and how he's unsure of his profession. And I'm like, whoa, wait, who's paying who here for what? Well, what's going on?
Right.
You know, and you know, so my takeaway from that experience, even like the psychedelic stuff, is like I needed to depend on myself again, and I needed to figure out something different, because what was happening at psychiatry, you know, basically reliving the trauma by talking to him wasn't helping me.
Yeah.
Getting coping, I get it, getting the coping skills, you know, not being a catastrophizer, or you know, being a negative and trying to, you know, frame it so it's positive. I get that, and I know those tools, but you know, when you're in that depression, it's hard. It's like, you know, you're smoking cigarettes and you know it's bad for you.
Yep.
You know it makes it makes you stink. You know all the risks. It's like, it's 2020. Everybody's very aware of nicotine, but when you're hooked, you're hooked.
Yep.
Just
It's
one
very
more. Just one more.
No. I noticed
So
that when my anxiety and my depression and my PTSD are really high, I smoke more than, because that's the only way that I can come. Like, I've tried, you know, anxiety meds, and they don't work as quick as just going and picking up that cigarette and lighting that cigarette and taking that first drag. And you're like, because it's like you're inhaling and exhaling, even though it's a bad habit, and I don't recommend anybody doing it, but I am a smoker. I am not going to lie about that. But, you know, it's like you're inhaling and exhaling. You just have that little extra chemical to kind of help you with it. And so for me, which really sucks, and I can't wait to be able to find a different way to do this, it's my anxiety medication when I need it. And so sometimes I chain smoke, other times I can go hours without it. And then other times it's like, hold on, I'll be right back. And, you know, and I got to chain smoke as quick as possible. And it sucks. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. That's one habit I wish I would have never picked up. And it sucks. It really sucks having that addiction. I know it's an addiction. I know that it's a bad one, but I could be doing a lot worse things than smoking a cigarette. I don't do any other drugs. I'm not an alcoholic. You know, I'm not a lot of things, but I do have a smoking habit that's bad. So,
and I'm sure folks all, like, you've heard all, they try to use scare tactics to talk you out of it. I think the thing that helped me was psychedelics. I literally went into it. This was after the depression. I was still kind of smoking, and I picked it up in college, just goofing around, and I never kicked it, and it helped with my stress from treating. I wouldn't smoke all day. At the end of the day of treating, it was just what I craved was oxygen and deep breathing. That's what most people crave when they're smoking. It's just, you've just associated, cigarettes with it, and also, it has its addictive ingredients in it. But what we're truly craving is like that deep breathing. So that's why I try to replace it with. But when I tripped, something in my brain was like, "Hey, that smells, and it's bad for you. Your teeth are yellow, so you should stop." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. I should." It sounds so dumb, but it happened, and I haven't wanted one. So it like, I don't know. I hear the thing about you just shouldn't kick a guy when they're down, but then I'm like, I had to mentally give myself a butt kicking, because I wasn't going to get up. I wasn't going to get up, and I was feeling awful and guilty too, because all these people wanted to help me. I just couldn't find it within myself to get better, and that's kind of what psychedelics did for me. And I will say too, like, psychedelics wasn't the cure. It just showed my mind and my heart what was possible. I could be better. I could be positive. I don't have to think these awful negative thoughts all the time. I maintained it by, meditating. I do a gratitude meditation every morning. When things were working for me before medication, this was the stuff I was doing. Every morning I get up. There's 5 things. My dog, my job. I got to wake up today. My wife, whatever it is. And I don't say it blasé, like I truly, like, I experience it, like, hugging my wife and stuff and thinking about that, or playing with my dog. Because it's easy to slip into that bad place again, so it's like, it's almost like anything in health, you gotta, use it or lose it. And then once you gain, you gotta maintain. So
yeah, I saw the comment, fake it till you make it, or make it till you fake it, or something.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I always get that confused, because my friend Tracy says that a lot in the morning show on Darlene's channel, and I always mix it up, and I apologize for that, but I tried to remember it, and I should have just looked at the comment. But when I came out about my mental health, a lot of people were very surprised, because when I would go live, I was being 100% me, but it was easy to hide the mental health behind the camera.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but once that camera came on, I was like, I'm like, yeah. And then even that became too much, where I came out about it. I did a couple episodes on mental health, and then my mental health went poop, and I was like, yep, I can't do it. Because I felt like I was being judged. I don't know about you guys, but have you ever felt like you opened up about something, and then all of a sudden everybody's judging you because you were trying to be honest, and maybe a little too honest?
Yeah.
No, I fully get you on that. As far as the mental health goes with sharing, I've never worried about what other people think, but I've wondered if part of that has to do with that I'd already been through so much by the time I was diagnosed. I didn't have my bipolar diagnosis till my 30s. And then at that point, I just was like, screw you. It just, I feel fortunate, but it just wasn't really a big concern for me. I think a lot of it too was that I was so busy dealing with the bipolar itself that I didn't have time to take in what other people's, opinions and thoughts and their energy coming at me, because it's not their problem.
Right.
And unless you have bipolar or you live with someone with bipolar, you can't really fully explain it. You can give the symptoms of it, but you can't really fully explain it.
Yeah.
And that's with anything, I think, honestly.
Yeah.
We could both be diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety, and it's going to affect us differently. And my symptoms may be the same as your symptoms, but your symptoms affect you differently than they do me with, and we have the same thing going on. And I've learned that doing this, that it doesn't matter if you have 50 people diagnosed with the same thing. Each one is going to have a story to tell because it's going to affect them differently. And YouTube, that's the power of YouTube. You can get it out there. You can share your story. And I'm learning that, and that's where my mind switched from being a victim to being a survivor, is because I was sharing my story. So once I got that story out, it was like a brick was lifted off my shoulders. And I was able to, I had people saying, oh my God, I experienced that too. I am so glad I'm not alone. And then, you share another story and another brick comes off and you don't feel as weighted down. And I think more people need to start opening up and accepting and breaking that stigma, that mental health. It's probably going to come out really bad, and I apologize ahead of time that we're wackadoos, because we're not wackadoos. We just are suffering, and we need to learn how to get it out there so other people know that they're not alone. And I mean, I joke around and I tell Tommy all the time, I'm a crazy wackadoo, that's just who I am. But a lot of times I wish I could be that happy-go-lucky person I used to be, but because of, and I don't blame 100% on my ex for my mental health to be the way it is. I chose to stay, but I also chose to stay because of fear. And I was brainwashed. At the beginning of it, I could have walked away, and I didn't know how. And so it's not, I have 1% fault in the situation. And that's why I feel like I'm now a survivor, because look at me. I just turned 40 years old. I've been through hell. I'm still here fighting. I want other people to know that no matter what, we still need to fight. Oh, I can't hear you.
Yep. Something happened to your volume.
What's that?
Something weird happened.
Oh, I think he took off his earbud thing.
Are we losing him?
Yeah, I think he's moving, and he put his earbud in.
And he's looking frozen. Yeah, now he's frozen. Maybe he'll go out, come back in.
Yep, no problem. Okay,
looks like there's some questions while we're waiting.
Yep, so I went back as far as I could at this moment. Sometimes my stuff happens and it doesn't. Yeah. But Mary Death Deal says depression almost has to be paralyzing before anyone wants to help. That's exactly right. And it's sad that it has to be that way. Dwayne says, if you don't have that type of relationship with your doctor, find one. It's very important. And that's with the whole having that positive relationship and being able to find a doctor that can, show you that it's okay to be like this and be willing to help. And so I agree 100% with that. I'm going to drop the link in so that Sam can come back in. Let's see, there was a couple other things. Question for the panel. Are there any, I don't have a clue what that word is, my bad, any holistic medications that you have tried? How did they work out for you? I don't know what that word is.
My YouTube is, I gotta refresh it. It's like way behind.
I'm gonna have to look that word because I really don't know what that word is, and I apologize, April.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That is all okay. Natural herb. Okay, so are there any natural medicines that you have tried? How did they work out for you? I tried a long time ago. Well, St. John's wort. It didn't do nothing, so I stopped it after a few months. What about you, Heather?
Are we going to include edibles?
It's natural.
It's natural.
So in other words, yes, she has tried natural. How did it affect you?
I was just fine yesterday.
So it worked. I have not tried those naturals, and I have been told that it would do me wonders. Just saying.
When you live in a state where it's not legal, it's hard to find something that's consistent. I do have a gal. You know, everybody's got a gal or a guy. And it is really hard in the just in the process to make it consistent and you know, to find a consistent strain. And so it's hit and miss as far as like treatment. No, but as far as taking the edge of anxiety in the moment, absolutely, yeah. And because you know, I've like I'm trying to think. My daughter takes a situational anxiety med. I'm trying to think if I really taken so much medication. I handle my anxiety differently than my children do. Yeah, well, my oldest son internalizes it. I very much internalize it. Whereas my other two kids, you can see it a lot more. But just having a little mini break away from it is nice. I'm hoping when the weather gets better, you know, when it warms up, that often helps. For, but that's right.
April said she wasn't meaning necessarily marijuana, but herbs and such.
No, I've heard all kinds of stuff. One of my sisters does that tea. She has to get it from Canada. She's in Alaska. Like it got banned here for completely absurd, stupid reasons, just because the pharmaceutical companies didn't want it. What is it? I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. It comes in a red or a green, what I've heard her say. And it helps with mood stabilization. I've told her to get on anxiety meds. She won't, but so fine, whatever. But, you know, I've told her, I'm like, they don't solve your problems, but they help your brain focus enough. If you can get on the right one, it helps your brain focus enough that you can solve your problems. And but
a couple of different possibilities for the tea. Kava, K-A-V-A.
Oh, I've done that one. I believe.
I'm just naming off the ones that I don't know anything about. Ballerina, Valerian. I know I butchered it, but
That's okay. I would too.
Gouda koala, GOTU space KOLA.
Interesting.
That comes in a, what is that? Where did I just see the box? I just saw the box and now I can't find the box. But it looked like it was like a green or blue box.
But so yeah, I know there is stuff. I don't know. That seems to be as hit and miss as medication is.
Can I recommend something?
Sure.
Reishi mushrooms. Reishi mushrooms is probably like, as far as Chinese traditional mushroom like medicine goes, it's like the thing. If they had to recommend one thing, it's the thing. Just like we, like how we have the pill, like that's it for them. So it helps with inflammation, and for those who know the science behind why depression happens sometimes, it's inflammation. It could be, and who knows what's bringing on the inflammation, be it like stress from diet, stress from your environment, mental stress, emotional stress, whatever it is. Some stress is good, but long-term chronic stress, not so great. Wears on you. I think Des talked about, if I could just focus, like, that jerk in the back of my mind saying, like, you don't understand what's he saying, like, just nod your head, say yes, da 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 da. Like, when your inflammation is really high, it kicks that off. And, and that's what benzos is there for. It's to turn that off, but it's a very temporary switch. So not to mention, reishi helps with, any heart conditions. It can be anti-cancerous depending on the type of cancer that you have. Helps with, lowering blood sugar, helps with your cardiovascular system. Just a million different great benefits. You can, for stigmatic, FOUR, SIGMATIC. They have a variety of mushroom teas. Like reishi can be on the bitter side. You can buy it in capsule form, like at your health markets. It can be a little pricey, but it's great. I mean, the Chinese are like, they're selling it in like Chinatowns for like hundreds of dollars, like before like all this stuff was happening. But you can find it, like my wife and I just went to the local market yesterday and we saw it for like $30 for a bottle.
Oh wow, that's not bad at all.
No, yeah. So Host Defense is a big company as far as like mushroom supplements in capsule form. It's by a gentleman called Paul Stamets. He's kind of like a bigwig in terms of what's called the mycology, the mushroom community. He wrote a lot of literature on how to do it, and he has a really famous podcast with Joe Rogan, which is kind of what started this little mini psychedelic renaissance. And he talks about how his love of mushrooms came when he decided to trip on 6 grams of magic mushrooms, climb to the top of this tree in the state of Washington during this thunderstorm, and wrote it out. Sounds like Lieutenant Dan and Forrest Gump moment. And he came down out of that tree. He was no longer anxious, and he had a stutter problem that completely went away. Somebody I think before I hopped in, I saw somebody ask me how long it took me to get off benzos. It was overnight.
Fishing and picking. He said, how long did it take to get off benzos for you? I've been off for 4 months now. I was given it for sleep, not knowing the withdrawal effects.
Oh man, it was overnight. I did not want it anymore. Did not crave it. I didn't get the anxiety swells that would come up that would make me want to reach for it. And this is me having tried getting off of a cold turkey, and to be real with you guys, I tried to swallow the whole bottle to kill myself. So I made my wife at the time hide the bottle from me.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't live that way anymore. And overnight. And I will say, like, there's this microdosing trend in like Silicon Valley where they're saying psychedelic mushrooms at a very low dose helps with your creativity. What it will do is it makes you feel a sense of euphoria. You feel happy. You feel loving. Your vision actually gets a little bit better. So there's this whole theory of the stone caveman, where cavemen probably took some psychedelic mushrooms while foraging and it helped with their visual acuity for hunting. And it removed the fear center, that jerk that's in the back of your mind saying you can't do this, you're not good enough, you're not this, da 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 da. Years of accumulating all that baggage that you've heard from your parents, your friends, strangers, right? That's locked away back here. And for one day, and every day after that, gone. Not that you vanquished some demon in the back of you. That's still me. That's still me. That's the guy that's just trying to protect me. He just got too much control upstairs and didn't allow me to take over anymore. But like when I take it, it turns off that central default mode, which we can turn off ourselves through years and years and years of meditation. I'm a millennial. I like to shortcut things. I don't got 10 years to meditate and practice and get there. So, you know, I could not express how powerful this stuff is. You know, they're using LSD in Switzerland to help people cope with end stage cancer and acceptance of death. That's some real PTSD, you know, and these people, they have a guide, that they work with for several hours. And when they come out of it, they accept their diagnosis. They're not afraid of death anymore. And they don't let that control them. So now their end of days, they can experience life, be with their family, not be in their own heads and basically caught in this mental prison until you die.
Right.
You know, so, so I think there's a lot more to it than we know. And for those who know chemistry, the molecule that is in, you know, psilocybin, LSD, DMT, peyote, mescaline, all resemble a serotonin molecule with an extra branch. And those extra branches is what makes each of those particular psychedelics unique. So mescaline is the only thing that we cannot synthetically make. The stuff that they're giving at Johns Hopkins University, NYU, Berkeley University over in the UK, those are synthetic cubensis, psilocybin serums that they're giving you. So we can create it and manufacture that. That's the dangerous part. But mescaline we can't. And a lot of, you know, Native Americans who have used it for, you know, ceremonies and spiritual guides, like, we can't replicate that, which is interesting. So, and pharmaceutical, like benzos, they're trying to do the same thing with the serotonin molecule. They just did a worse job at it.
Dwayne would like to know, do you continue to use the mushrooms, or is it a one-time dosage?
My wife and I like to dose quarterly, just as like a little mental health check. You know, we do around 3 grams. And that's what we do. I do not like to microdose. Like I said, that's a fad. The reason why I took it was to not be a slave to anything. You know, I'll be a slave to food and sleep and all the things that I need to live, but not to a plant, nothing. So yeah, we just do it every once in a while. And like I say, this year I probably only done it twice. I don't need it, you know. And like I said, I try to do the things that are you know, help me maintain it. Like I more so had to take, because I was feeling the anxiety. Like, you know, my wife is 7 months pregnant. You got a baby on the way. You got all this stuff happening in the news. My dad is just recovering from leukemia. So, and I gotta like try and see him. So all this stuff was weighing on me, and I had no place to put it. And you know, I just had to trip and just say, dude, you can let that go. Stop being in your own head and just move forward and get done what you need to get done.
All right. Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Kids are fun.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited.
Babies are fun.
Yeah.
It's when they get older that you're like, uh-oh. No, but I love them. I have two, and they're pains, but they're mine.
Yeah.
You never stop loving them.
Yeah.
They're not always likable.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that before you have kids and you hear a parent say that, it's like, that's so horrible. And then you have kids and you're like, oh, I get it now. They're not very likable right now at this moment.
Yeah.
But you never
situation. Boys are easier to deal with than girls, and girls are easier to deal with than boys. It just all depends on the situation.
Yeah, my dad said I will get karma. I'll get karma for what I gave him.
See,
I wish.
They said that to my brothers, and I'm the one that ended up with the karma, and I was the good kid.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
Like my kid's much more trying than I was for my mother.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I want all my kids to have children so they know what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Crystal asked, doctor just put my son on, I have no idea how to say it.
Lamotrigine.
And I'm terrified. Any experience with this drug?
I'm sure I've taken it.
I think that's what, a mood stabilizer?
Yeah. Isn't that Lamictal?
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah, I took that for 5 years. It helped at the time, and then I took myself off of it. The doctor wasn't happy with me. The reason I went off of it is it killed all my ability for creativity. But at the same time, I was on the edge, and they put me on that, and I was able to walk away. So every medication has its side effect, but it did definitely help me at the time.
Yeah, I would think the same. I hated it while I was on it. I wanted to desperately get off of it, and there was a part of me that knew I needed to be on it to stay safe.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So, but I look at it like any other medicine. Like, once my cold is over, I don't keep taking cold medicine. It's just to help me through a rough time. So until I can get healthy again.
But yeah, and for me, I haven't been completely off of all medication for, like I said, for 27 years because I just spiral so quickly. It gets really ugly.
Yeah.
But I am open to alternative because it would be great to not have to take the prescription medication forever. So Dwayne's asking, what are some good sources for more information on this? I've been Googling that as we're talking, trying to find a specific website to recommend. I'm just catching a little bit here and there. But
yeah. April says, watch Group Lab.
Watch Group. Okay.
That's on Netflix. That's Gwyneth Paltrow's little brainchild. They explore some different things, and I do other things like the Wim Hof method. If you guys aren't familiar with that, it's a very intense breathing, breath work, and technique. Basically, this guy has been on TV. He's called the Iceman.
Oh yeah, I saw an interview. He did an interview with Russell Brand. I need to finish watching it. That dude is trippy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
he's great.
He's so bizarre. It was wild.
He's great.
I watched a show. I don't know if this is the same thing, but I watched something called The Iceman, and he was a killer.
bearded guy, shirtless in the snow.
I don't know. I didn't see the opening part of it.
Okay.
Probably not the same, but no. Yeah, like I said, Russell Brand interviewed him not that long ago, and the things he had to say were really wild. Just his mind over matter. ability.
Totally different person.
And I think that's way cool. You know, something that I have started doing, I just do for myself. So I was raised Christian. I live in Utah. You can probably guess which branch. And so I was told that things like oracle cards were really evil, but I've always been curious about them. I have a set that I put in a frame, Dwayne, and I framed them. It's a different kind of oracle card from tarot cards. I thought they were pretty, so I got them. But anyway, so I got some tarot cards, and I've just been learning about those. And it's not any kind of prediction of the future. It's just you can use it as a guide, just some thoughts to, some questions to ask yourself kind of idea. And I really like that, just as far as, like I said, if I just stop, I open my mind, I may have a question, I may not, and I just kind of do my own little research through my cards and learning. It just gives me something to focus on, if nothing else, for a moment.
Right.
And I found that it helps break the cycle going on in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And plus, I'm learning something new. I like it. I haven't told everyone in my family about it because, some wouldn't care. Some will, think I'm a witch or something. It's not anything evil or horrible or, it's just
that helps you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Everybody has a different thing that helps them, no matter what it is. And what doesn't work for one person doesn't mean it's not going to work for another.
Sure, absolutely.
And vice versa.
I used to do yoga.
She said, not serial killer Iceman, breather Iceman.
Breather Iceman, yes. Yeah, like I said, I'm finding him on YouTube. The dude is a trip. Oh, you know who else I really, really like? Is he German? He's an odd duck. Eckhart Tolle. Uh-oh, your volume went out again. No, it's still gone.
Yeah, he probably took his earbud out again.
Yeah, like that guy's a trip, but he says things that make you stop and think. That's the kind of stuff I really like. Is just, I like to learn about the way that other people view life and see what I can do to incorporate that into my life. It's not any kind of official therapy, but it seems to help me to always keep my mind open to new possibilities, new ideas. Always stay open to change. I think one of the worst things we do to ourselves is stop learning and growing sometimes.
Dwayne said that your card art, it's very Celtic basis.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
And yeah, my cards are way cool. They're the earth elements rather than the cups, the swords, that's traditional, and this is more earth based. It's very much the same, but it kind of goes out about a little bit different.
That's the Waits Universal Tarot that you're talking about.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And
I
and awesome.
I know a lot. I ain't gonna lie.
Way cool. And as I'm reading the book that came with it, it's very right now, very modern. It was probably written, and I'm sure they revise it every couple of years, because in the book it's talking about things we deal with in life right now rather than past stuff, which past stuff's good too, but it was also interesting to learn how to relate it to current day issues, I guess. Mm-hmm. And yeah, my cards are really pretty. I love them. That was my Christmas gift to myself. And so there's 81 cards in the deck, so it's taking time to learn them, but that's okay. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I learned that when I was younger.
I never see myself as some kind of master tarot card reader. I just enjoy them.
I go based on whatever I'm feeling at the time. I don't know if they're in here or not. Yeah. These are mine. I still have them.
Oh, put the camera on you so we can see them.
Mine I've had for a long, long time.
Awesome.
40, I got them at 18, so
Way cool.
for that. But they've been through a lot. As you can tell they're old.
Yep. Make you big so we can see it in detail.
I did make me big.
Oh, there you are. Okay, you know what? I moved to YouTube. And so there was the delay. You know, when you go to YouTube and everything takes 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're old.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
This is the card deck you're talking about. These were given to me as a gift. And so, yeah, I have those.
The very traditional.
Yeah. And then I made a bag.
That's a very nice bag.
It's velvet. You want to keep them in velvet.
Mine are just in the original box they came in for now. Yeah. I find the right.
When you transfer them from the box to a velvet bag, during a full moon, you're supposed to put them out on a ledge, like your window ledge.
Yeah.
Moonlight can hit them, and it like cleanses them and charges them and stuff like that. I have my crystals.
And way cool. Very nice.
And then, yeah, I have just different things here. This is my little treasure. And then I have crystals everywhere. Like I have cups of crystals with my nickname on it and stuff like that. We happened to find those at a thrift store, so they were not personally bought or made for me. It just I happened to run into them. So
Dwayne just brought me my cards if you'd like to see them. And like I said,
I lost about half the people.
So I am very attached to my cards, and my friend who was taught how to read cards from her grandma, she told me that my cards are very attached to me. So I was happy to hear that because, you know, I'd feel sad if this was a one-way relationship. But I've been practicing learning how to shuffle them, and I'm looking for. There's one card I don't like, because it creeps me out. It's no, I'm fine with the death card because mine says death and rebirth, and I feel like I have had a spiritual death and rebirth more than once in my life. You know, there's times when you do have to go through a spiritual death before you can continue on. But no, it's actually it's the child and Opu. And it's just the picture itself kind of creeps me out. I'm looking for one that really shows the full art. Here's Abundance. The glare. So see how beautiful that artwork is? There we go. And but like I have learned a lot. It's got me thinking about things in a different way, just because I'm open to it.
Right.
And allowing a new influence. Like I said, one of my sisters would probably think it's totally evil. The other sister is like, hey, good for you. This is me right now. This is the stage in life I'm moving into. And so this card, I've even done some research online about this one. This is the crone. Or in traditional, it would be the I actually matched some of them up. I've been in the process of matching up with the traditional deck. But anyway, just talks about moving on to the stage in life where you're no longer raising children. You are becoming a mature woman, and you can look at life differently because people aren't relying on you like they once had. So anyway, see, that's the one that kind of creeps me out. Look at the look on the kid's face. It just gives me the woogies. Overall, it's a beautiful picture.
Yeah, it reminds me. Oh, what is that movie where all the kids were blonde, but they were evil?
Oh, funny. This is the fool. The child is the fool. I remember that much. So anyway, like I said, this deck is 81 cards. It's Dreams of Gaia, and it wasn't cheap. I'll tell you that. I don't do the bridge shuffle with them like you do a $4 deck, you know. But
Yeah, I don't remember how much mine were. I know they were given to me, and I don't know how much the person paid for it. But they said when they gave it to me that the cards spoke to them, and they wanted to come by me, and I thought they were crazy. But and that's the thing. I have them, and they've helped me, and and honestly, Dwayne, this is part of mental health. I mean, this is still part of this helps us personally with our mental health. Go, Gabby. The cat's trying to tear up my.
Yeah, Dwayne found a deck and a box in a storage unit, and I was showing my friend, and she's like, "Can I have that?" I'm like, "Sure." And she gave me a learner's deck in trade, which you don't necessarily really bond with a learner's deck, but it's very informative. That's what I've been using to find out what these ones mean in the traditional sense. But and so yeah, I started with the learners one. Like I said, it was fine, but it wasn't. It didn't really. I get these ones, yeah. And so then I went found these, and I've been searching through them for 3 months now. And so anyway, it's learning something new.
Yeah, for certain. When I first got them, it came with a book. I looked at the book, and at first I thought it was a game, so I'd be like opening it up, and then all of a sudden I just started feeling this stuff, and I was just like, I don't need my book. And then
I'm starting to go that way a little bit. There's my book.
See, that's gorgeous. I really love the artwork.
And I go through and I underline parts that really speak out to me. Yeah, you go through it and you can see which cards I've spent the most time with.
Yeah.
And
it's all in how whatever pops out at you at the moment is what you usually read and stuff like that. All right, so it has been a little over almost 2 hours, so we are going to shut it down here in a few minutes. If any of we want to at least open it up to see if anybody else has any questions for today. If not, that's okay. We'll be shutting it down. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Heather, for being here. Thank you, Sam, for joining us.
Yes.
Having you on. You are welcome anytime. Dwayne, thank you for questions and helping keep the chat in line. I greatly appreciate it, my friend. And what's that? Oh, yes. Tommy had to remind me. So starting this week, right? Okay, so starting this week, Tommy and I are going to be doing a Q&A reseller help live for new resellers. I'll be the secretary giving out the questions. He'll be the one answering the questions. But I'm not sure exactly what days we're doing that. But I'm excited because him and I are doing something together on YouTube. So I'm super excited. And just keep an eye out for any notifications with Tommy's channel, The Bargain Effect. Let me pull it up so that I can drop the link. I'm so bad at this.
So Dwayne was asking Crystal if we answered their question. Do you remember what Crystal's question?
Yes, that was the medication question.
It helps, but there's side effects.
The one that her son's doctor just put him on. I don't know how to say it. So
I've had way worse side effects than what that medication was. Um, you had mentioned finding the right healthcare provider. I have finally. I found a lady. She's a nurse of psychiatry, so she works under, in a psychiatrist's office, and she can prescribe medication. I like her a whole lot, and very smart. And then I go to a nurse practitioner at the doctor's office because I just feel like she gets me as well. And and I've talked to each of them about the other, because the one at the doctor's office, she's like, beyond an occasional Prozac short term, she doesn't like prescribing mental health medication. And really, just because you have the license to doesn't mean you have a knack for it. Like, if you're a medical doctor, doesn't mean you have a knack for mental health.
Right.
And then talking with my nurse of psychiatry, she fully agrees, and she's like, I wouldn't want to have to prescribe you your, inhaler for your asthma.
Right.
Different field.
Exactly. You got to be comfortable with the people that you are trusting with your medication and listening and diagnosing it. You have to be comfortable with them, or it's just not going to work.
Well, and two, this isn't very nice, but I think it's true. I think some doctors push some medications because of kickbacks.
I agree. I've had doctors like that. I have had doctors like that, knowing that right after the swab test was done, I still had the same psychiatrist, but I went to my regular doctor, not the one that we ended up following, but a different one, and tried to prescribe me something that I couldn't take according to the list.
Oh.
Because it was also treated something else that I was going through at that time. It was like a regular medication, but I couldn't take it because it wasn't going to react to me very well. And I tried to show them that, and they were like, they didn't want to listen. So it was the end of that doctor.
Yeah.
It was a fill-in doctor who I didn't even really know. Just, so I just was like, no.
Yeah.
But okay, so I dropped Tommy's link, The Bargain Effect, his channel in chat. Please subscribe to him, hit that bell, and this week we'll be starting up our new show on the Reseller Mental Health. Holy wow, combining two shows at once. I apologize for that. Resellers Help Desk with The Bargain Effect. And then we will see you next Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time for another live mental health chat. Again, thank you, Heather, for being here. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, everybody in the chat who opened up and shared. Much love to you all, and we will see you next time. Bye.